Hi, everybody. Today is March 18th, 2021. Yay, we survived 1 year of COVID so far. Uh, Today, well, I have a few things that we can talk about, but I think the main thing that I wanted to talk today was what can we do for 122 that we can like prioritize some work. Um, did anybody have some initial thoughts?
I'm like most things we talk about, I'm not sure what portion of this falls on code organization and which portion falls on other areas, but
Right.
the two items that are at the top of my list that I think we would at least be interested in
Yeah.
are the Go build no longer depending on GoPath.
Okay.
So that's that issue. That ends up touching a lot of module package related things. So like the build and the make files and the code generation pieces,
Right.
all sort of have GoPath assumptions baked into them at various places. So that issue is sort of listing the known issues. It's sort of an umbrella issue. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure how much of that is code organization. Like the build is
Right.
maybe release, but Tim Hawken wrote most of it, so I don't know. Code
Yeah.
generation is maybe API machinery,
Right.
but
Basically, this is a whole, right?
it is.
And that's what we do here, like discover holes and try to fill them
Yep.
and
Yep.
farm it out for sure.
Yep.
So we shine the light, and then we try to get other SIGs to do the things that can be done.
Yeah.
And or hunt people who can like go fix code gen, whatever, right?
And the reason this is increased in priority is because the Golang project has at least said they're going to drop support for GoPath mode in Go 117.
Okay.
We'll see if that actually sticks, but there's at least the potential that we would not be able to pick up Go 117 until we completed this work.
Yeah. Can I ask a like a leading question, which is, so if we right now everybody has to like check out Kubernetes under like gopath/source/k8io, right? Like if we
They don't actually. So
they don't. Okay.
our build like creates a fake Go path. Like if you look, we have a run in Go path task,
Yeah.
which like creates a directory structure and then does like symlinks or copy files, or like it does things internally so that wherever you check out Kubernetes,
Okay.
like inside the, I think, output directory _output, like it'll make it look like a Go path there and be happy.
Okay. So
as far as the rest of the world's concerned, like you can clone Kubernetes anywhere, I think. It doesn't have to be in your Go path, but that only works as long as the Go tooling like actually still honors Go path stuff. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm asking because like we still in our documentation we say that people need to check out under a certain path.
Do they?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I will cross check this after the meeting to see if it actually works.
Yeah.
So
the other item that is at the top of my list is the Protobuf gRPC stuff.
Yeah.
It looks like the two main dependencies we had on the old version were the etcd client, and it looks like they're making progress in getting a version that works with the sort of the new version of gRPC or Protobuf, so that's good. And the other piece is the GoGo Protobuf.
Yeah.
The reason this is becoming more urgent is that if we ever get a transitive dependency that pulls in gRPC 130 or higher, we'll be stuck. It's like we'll start to not be able to pick up new versions of dependencies. And as soon as that means we can't pick up a critical bug fix or security fix, that's going to become an emergency. So
yeah, containerd is getting there, Jordan. They are relying on other things, and people are like updating like Leaf libraries just because somebody made an update and
right.
they didn't know this, and it gets pulled into containerd, and then we end up pulling containerd. So that's happening already. There is one patch that I've been able to get the containerd folks to not merge so far, but they're itching to get going because they want to fix some of their code. So we've talked about the Gogo Protobuf before. Do we have any update on like if we are able to take it out, or?
I mean, we can't take it out without rewriting how Kubernetes handles Protobuf. So
okay, so no.
it is deeply entrenched in how we work with Protobuf stuff.
Right.
I think the effort to fix Gogo Protobuf to be compatible with the newer gRPC stuff would be significantly smaller and safer.
Mm-hmm.
But that means like going to that project and seeing if they will accept changes or fixes. So I haven't gotten there yet, but yeah.
Hi, Arsh. Is there anybody to help you, Jordan, with this Gogo Protobuf?
Yeah, so Peter and Tim Hawken have been involved in discussions between the gRPC team and trying to figure out if it's a PIOTR. I'll fix it.
That's okay. PIOTR.
So Peter has been coming at this from the etcd side and has really been driving discussions, at least internally. So I would probably look to one of them to, or at least ask one of them what the current status is.
So both gRPC and Gogo Protobuf teams are primarily Google, right? At this point.
Gogo Protobuf is not. Gogo Protobuf
it's somebody else. Okay.
Was someone who was building on top of the gRPC stuff, but doing it in a way that was unexpected, and that worked for a long time, and then it stopped working, and that's sort of where we're at now.
Yeah, I forgot. Sorry. So those are the people who don't want to maintain it anymore, right?
Right. I think they've. The feeling I get from the issues that I saw over there is that they would be receptive to someone sort of taking on, adapting it and making it work, but they're not driving it. It's not a blocker for them. I don't even know if they're using it anymore.
They want from what I remember, they want somebody who will take over the maintainership in all aspects, and not just this one targeted fix for newer gRPC. I think. Which we I don't think any one of us want to take at this point.
I mean, so as is typically the case, there's a spectrum of options, right? Like we could rewrite the Kubernetes stuff to stop using Gogo Protobuf, and that's a significant chunk of work. We could see if Gogo Protobuf would accept targeted fixes for this particular issue, or we could fork Gogo Protobuf and only fix this issue and say, like, we're only targeting Kubernetes use cases. We're not interested in maintaining it generally. Those are the three main options I see.
Right. how can we get an update from Peter and Tim?
I will ask them to comment on the gRPC issue. So the issue for that is there.
Okay. Okay. The only thing that I had was, I logged an issue this morning, which was, the Go 116 IO util stuff. Other than that, it is just ongoing dependency updates. I ended up digging into why Containerd GoSum still has a Kubernetes, K8s Kubernetes version 13.
Does it still?
In GoSum, not in GoMod, just GoSum. So I tracked it down to it's let me just share that. CNCF Containerd maintainers. Okay. So the Containerd main repository depends on these 4 Containerd repositories, which are on the older version of Containerd, and they end up pulling HCS shim, image crypt, and various versions of Containerd, and ends up with the older version of Containerd. So in the end, if you go back here, you end up with V087 of HCS shim, which depends on K8s Kubernetes V113.
I see.
So I was able to automate generating this graph, so it'll be easier next time. So me and Sebastian from Docker, we are working on the Kubernetes maintainers Slack channel, trying to clean this up.
Okay.
It's going to take
the current versions are already cleaned up. We just need to make sure everything along the chain is pointing at current versions. Is that basically it?
Yes. So we need to get V15 out of Containerd. That'll clean up a bunch of things.
Okay.
But then what we'll have to do is we have to go around fixing everything else to use V150. Just doing that is not going to be enough. We'll have to do one more iteration to clean it up. So we'll need at least 2 iterations from the way I see it. So we are working on like a few projects at this point. We are talking to the Microsoft HCS shim guys as well. And we have some issues open with them, and Sebastian has a PR open with them. He got 3 PRs merged over the last 2 days to clean some stuff up. So we'll need Containerd release, we'll need the HCS shim release, and then we'll have to do one more time of both, going around updating all the repositories. So it's going to be like a couple of steps of Tango.
All right. Thanks for doing that. You said you had that automated. Is that a general thing that you can say, like, why is this random version of this random thing in this file?
Yes. So this is a Python script.
Cool.
So another example that I did was, we pull in RSCIO PDF, right?
I know we used to. I thought that got cleaned up.
We haven't merged the PR yet. There was a PR open from D. Lauren C, and okay. We haven't merged it yet for 120. one.
Okay.
So we'll have to reopen. But I use this as an exercise to see if I can do this in hours too. And this is the Python script, and it works. Arsh also kicked the tires on this, so he can attest that it gives decent output. So it just goes through the Go mod graph and builds up for this path, for this specific dependency, what are the relevant packages, and then it goes through one more round of Go mod graph and make sure that we keep the version numbers and stuff like that, and it ends up drawing it. So it's pretty easy to use. So I'll throw the link here.
Thanks.
Generating graphs for why something ended up in a Go sum file. Okay. So this was what I was doing for the last couple of days. Yeah, and we'll have to, yeah, that's about it. Lubomir, did you have anything that you wanted to do in 122?
No, I just joined for this last slide in particular. I was fascinated that container imports Kubernetes. That's why I joined.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Arsh, Jordan, anything else, or we just limit ourselves for now to these
those two seem like if we could actually resolve those two, or make the issues clear enough that those groups can resolve them, I would be super happy for 122.
I'll add the example also, so you can go back to it.
GoMod has the GoMod Y, where you can pass it like a package. I think we need like GoMod Y.
For sure.
Like,
okay. Internship. Arsh, how far have you gotten? Do you have an update for us?
Yes, so I was able to fix the issue where we like for the finding out the max depth of a dependency chain. Each time I was running the uh, script which I wrote, it generated a new number, and like I realized that was because I was storing all the dependencies in a map, and the way maps are iterated in Golang is it's not a fixed order each time. So but from that I found out that like my script can be simplified, because whatever the longest dependency chain will be, it will always start at the main module, right? Because like it's yeah, so we don't need to iterate and all. But other than that, I have been pretty much stuck in how to like find my way around, like how to find the longest path in a graph when there are so many cycles there and they are like intertwined with one another. And I've mostly been reading stuff about graph theory. And
So did you look at the graph packages that I pointed you to?
yes,
Was there
but
anything useful?
just a second, I lost. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I lost your audio. What were you saying?
So did you look at the graph packages that I showed you?
Yes, the ones you mentioned in Slack, I did go over them, but like for most of their like use, I was not able to use them here because uh, like they were dealing with much simpler stuff, I'd say.
Mhm.
So I was kind of hoping like if I could like show you what the brief algorithm is and maybe something obvious I'm missing, you could
Oh,
point out.
yeah, I'll make you co-host, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. It's saying host disabled participants.
Give me a sec. You gotta give me a sec.
Also, has like the time changed because I thought the meeting was in about an hour. I just logged in early just to check that you put a message in.
Yes.
It's probably daylight savings time. It's US daylight savings time based.
Yeah.
And that
the
just
calendar.
is
Yeah.
everything an hour.
So is this like a permanent change from now on?
Well, for 6 months.
For 6 months, and then it'll go back.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know of this.
Everybody agrees it's not a good system, but no one can actually get up the momentum to change it. It's like so many other things.
Oh yeah.
Uh, should I'll just like brief about the general code and then talk about the finding longest path. So I run comod graph. I get the output in a string, and like I read that line by line and I separate the versions from it, and I add all these dependencies to a list, and then basically I create a graph in an adjacency list form, which is a map of string to an array of strings, where like for each dependency I store its like whatever it depends on. uh, so now for printing the longest path, what I am currently doing is that I run a depth first search from the main module, and I at the same time I like have a array to keep track of which nodes I've already visited, and like a lot of from what a lot of stuff I read, they were all like about using dynamic programming to optimize this. So there's a dynamic programming array which will like store so dp of x will store what is the max length of dependency chain when I start from x. Right, so this depth first search is, the code is pretty simple, but it's giving weird results. It's like mark the current dependency as visited, then iterate through all of the things it depends upon, and if you haven't visited them, then run a depth first search on that, and whatever like the length you get, so like if a depends on b, so whatever is the max length of chain starting from b, if you add one to it, that should give you the max length starting from a. So basically update that. Yep. So I've mostly been testing around this, and do you see the other VS Code window where I've opened the Kubernetes repo?
No, we can see
No,
only
only-
one window.
I'll just share the entire screen. Just a second.
So at this point, are you trying to count the max depth, or are you trying to print
So
the max, the exact dependencies that
yeah.
form the longest path?
So initially I was about printing. It was all about printing it. So when I do print it, I like get 28 as a result for the Kubernetes repo. But to like verify this, we talked about adding a verbose mode which will print out the longest dependency chain. But the thing is, when I do that, I get this chain, and like its length is 14, and that has nothing to do with 28. So I don't know which output to trust, this one or this one. I tracked this chain manually, and this does exist.
So you don't know which one got you 28.
Yeah, I don't know if like this is the longest chain, or is there a longest chain which is of 28 and printing around. Yeah.
So when you're computing max depth, like one of the useful things to be able to do is to, like, as you're figuring out a depth, like record the path that got you that depth.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing in this variable. Like whenever I update, like, so uh like I said, you take A, then you iterate through its dependencies, and then you say that, like, let's say A depends on B and C. So you say
Mhm.
that if the chain starting from B uh, is greater than whatever value is already present in A, add 1 to it and update it in A. And when you do that updation, then in longest path of K, store U so that you know that A depends on B in order to take the longest path.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm using to print this. And this is not coming out the same as the result I'm getting here. The reason I is cycles in graph, but I don't like it's getting, yeah.
So one thing you could do, like, quickly is, in a hard code, when you reach 28, what node you were on, right? And then we can go back from there. If that itself is not the BigQuery one, then there's a problem right there.
Uh, when I so it's going like when I get 28, that's for the main module, right? So
Okay,
what?
so
Yeah.
let me frame it another way. When you visit a node, right,
Hmm.
print the full path, right? Doesn't matter where you are, right? So when you visit another node, print the full path to the root, right? Print one on each line with the depth. Okay, so when it traverses through all the nodes, you will have what was the depth and what was the chain for that depth, and then we can eyeball it to see which one was the max. Uh, so that's a simple way of debugging, because right now you're printing only one and you don't know whether it's the right one or not, right?
So you're saying like each time I go into this TFS function, I just print out what the longest chain is from the current dependency it is visiting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be super verbose, but at least
Yeah.
you'll have the output and you can, like, understand what it's doing as you're stepping through.
Right. So the
But
other,
like, yeah,
if you are able to print some hints, like the last node, for example, then we can use my Python script to see if we get exactly the same result with that.
yeah. Good. But like one thing, like as I kept reading more about it, like can this even be solved? Because a lot of like people were saying like this is supposed to be an NP hard problem or something, and it has no like computation in a reasonable time when there are so many cycles and stuff. So
We skip the cycles, right? Like if we don't revisit the same node again with this algorithm.
we don't, but like it becomes problematic. Like if two cycles are interchanged, then depending on where you entered the cycle, it gets.
I mean,
Right.
if you step through the dependencies in a deterministic order and you handle cycles in a consistent way, like if there's a cycle, you record the length of the cycle and then you say, like, I'm not going to recurse that anymore, then it will at least be reproducible. Yeah. So the key is handle cycles in a consistent way and traverse the list of dependencies in the same order. So like if you start with your initial list and sort it alphabetically and then take the first one and then take its dependencies and sort them alphabetically and take the first one, like you'll at least be deterministic.
So for that, like, uh, if we go by alphabetical order, like the problem comes here, like if you know, like this is a chain. So if you, let's say like A is also connected to C, all right. If you start, visiting dependencies of A, and let's say you come at C first, then you will say that, you know, C has a length of 1, 2, and 3, right? And that will affect all your other results of B, E, and D. But if you come to B first, then that will be 3, and the results will change.
Yeah, that's
And
why I'm saying, like, if you, when you visit a node, if you have all its parents, right, and if this is the current longest, then you store it, right? Okay, and
yeah,
you go to and while you're doing this visiting, if the current visited node is longer than the previously stored chain, then replace it.
replace it.
Okay, so if you
Exactly.
do that same algorithm again and again, at any given point in time, you will have what is the currently visited node and what is the longest chain that you've visited so far. Do you see what I'm saying? Harsh, are you there?
Yeah. I'm thinking. So the traversal would still be once and not like multiple times, so that we get a.
Correct. We stopped the cycles already, and we don't really care whether you're visiting B first or C first, because we visit both, and we know whether we visited B or C, the longest one is we're going to end up with the one which is the longest.
Mhm.
Do you see
All
that?
right, yeah. I have
So
some.
that is, so mechanically, that is what I was trying to say before, was print, when you visit a node, print all its parents and this node on a line, right? Got it?
Yeah.
And print a count of how many nodes were there.
Notes.
And do this again and again. It's going to be very verbose, but then you can sort, because the first one is a number, right?
Yeah.
You can do like sort command, and you can sort it as a number, and then you can eyeball which one was the longest, and you can compare. Do you see that? And
Yes.
mechanically, that is the same as like storing the currently known longest series, and if the new
Just
one is
that,
longer than the previous one, then replace it.
replace it. Got it. Just that we'll be doing it for everything rather than.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't get the hang of it, I will prototype it in Python, and then you can turn it into Go if you want. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think I
I'll
saw
try it first.
Dim's talk about like the cycles thing is actually a good signal. So if you encounter a cycle, recording that so that like we know there's a cycle. Cycles are not generally something we want. So as you encounter them, that's also a useful signal to dump out and
That
say,
was one
hey, I
of
found
the
a cycle.
issues we logged in, and like
Cool. Yeah.
things to add in the future. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So Ash, you have stuff to do, and
Yes.
ping me back, and we'll chat about this again. Okay.
Yes, I will do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ash. Okay. Are you finding this useful, interesting?
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So we have SIG testing and Nabarun. Hi. Is that hey Ben?
Hey,
uh,
I forget
Ben,
about that.
did you have anything to talk about today? We made notes about like what we were going to do for 122. One was the Go build no longer depends on Go path thing. The other one was Protobuf gRPC versions. Did you have anything else?
Not in particular. I just came to listen today. I do think the Go statement thing is something we might want to look at some point, but it seems we have a lot of other things already.
Well, some things I don't know whether we can make progress.
If someone wants to go like chase the Go team until they describe what that actually does, I would love to like loose someone on them.
So I dug through a bunch of issues, and it seems that it controls if a module is allowed to use language features. But there's still some debate going forward as to whether or not, like, for example, like a transitive module versus the root module. I believe currently it only affects the root. That said, if your test, even if it doesn't affect the root, like if you're running tests that is currently the root, you probably want, like, it's still an assertion that like, if you have a module and it declares a version, then it controls whether or not it can access that. So I think the idea is more like if they have added functionality to Go and you declare like a lower version, then it'll say, okay, well, like that this isn't allowed in this module because I don't know, we will remove this functionality or something. So yeah, I don't think there's a great answer for what you should set this to anywhere in the Go team stuff. I think we do probably need to, I think that probably it is the first action item is like, there's a mention of writing docs somewhere, but it doesn't appear that happened.
Like, yeah, I don't know if we should set it to the newest Go version we support or the oldest Go version we support. I mean, for the staging repos and stuff, like we actually frequently use like stuff that's available in the latest Go version. So it's probably not a big delta for.
So it also, I don't see any reference to, I believe normally we use things that are in the standard library, but it's talking about language features like type alias, or they added some bit shift stuff. I think it's difficult to pin down. I think we do need to probably bug the Go team and say, we need to know what this does.
Yeah.
But no promises.
Standard library language, potato, like if okay.
I'm not actually sure where to start there beyond like the existing issues. I'm not sure how helpful it is to show up and like comment, be like, hey, we still need
Still don't understand.
So who's the closest familiar person to Kubernetes on the Go team? Nobody?
Maybe Jay.
Okay.
Jay Conrad.
Yeah, since he used to do rules Go, so that would be my guess. But I haven't really had much. I didn't actually know he was on the Go team at the time. I haven't really had any direct interaction with the Go team myself.
Is there a Ajmani Samir, I guess? I don't know.
On Twitter. I think he's like a manager or something.
Manager, okay. Probably not a good
I have no idea. I haven't really needed to yet.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm keeping tabs on the Go path thing. There's a whole lot of hack script stuff that wants to go path everywhere.
Because Go needed it, so we created one. If it's not there, from what Jordan described.
Yeah.
There's Go to make. There's the code generators, which I think, like if we fix some of the things in Gen Go, like there might be bits and pieces that are on the individual generators, but I think most of it is sort of the guts of Gen Go. So if we fix those two things, is there a lot else that cares?
I think there's going to be a long tail because a pretty standard thing that we do is we like set up a fake Go path, and stuff is not, we're not consistent at all about how we specify packages. Like, do we use the full file path? Do we use the relative path? Do we use the actual module import path? There's going to be a long tail on that. There's also, I'm sure there's other fun things that like any one of us doesn't know about. Like surprise kind actually looks up where the Kubernetes source tree is by asking Go where the import is, which only works in Go path mode. So we want to find the repo root and then start building from there. So we're gonna have to make sure that, I believe we are, but we have to make sure that everywhere in CI we're like explicitly passing that in, because we are not gonna be able to safely rely on auto detecting it. It's also gonna be kind of hard to find these things in CI because CI is like hard coded developed to check out things to a Go path of some sort, always.
So let me ask a dumb question then. Is there a way to pass a parameter in the Go command line to say don't use Go path?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, or is there an environment variable?
Yeah, it's an environment variable.
Okay.
I mean, we could also set Go path to some, like, we can find the spot in
Fake
the
one.
R scripts where we set it, and we can set it to something nonsensical.
Okay. Yeah, so it's going to be a bunch of experimentation and stuff like that.
The other thing I found is that we don't quite consistently call the like Go setup env in all of the scripts. So like like when we were looking at some of the structured logging testing stuff, Alana was finding that various verify scripts didn't work for her because she doesn't have a normal Go path. So the good news is a bunch of things do just work right now, but they also just work because we internally set up the path. But at least you can trace that because there's like a hack call that does the like set up all the GoM stuff, and that includes the fake Go path. So you could just like stop setting it up there and see what happens.
So we check out in a directory which we traditionally don't, and then we switch that off. That should be enough. And the environment variable between those three, we should be able to simulate, I guess.
Yeah. You can get a whole lot, you can get quite a lot of coverage on what our tools are doing now by there's a cube golang setup env in the golang.sh that does this. We can just alter what that does and check it and make sure that the local checkout is not itself already in a Go path.
Interesting. Well, we'll need to find somebody who is willing to take this on, or
Yeah.
one of us will do it.
I actually stumbled upon the code generator thing because I don't have a Go path setup. I usually have an arbitrary project directory. The code generator does not work for me if I'm not in Go path. It just creates some arbitrary generated files in the Go path that I traditionally have. And also like I face the same issue with kind as well. So whenever I build a node image using my modified code, I pass the argument explicitly that here is my cube root. So I dumped a bit down, but then I'm really new to Django and the code generator. So I'm digging something on my free time on those. But if I find something, I will just file a change to the appropriate repository. So since I'm doing it on my free time, like what kind of severity or what kind of timeline are we looking at? Because I don't want to block dev on this.
Well, when you get off the SIG release stuff, you can be full-time on it.
I can, yes. Like
Yeah.
after April 9th, I can.
The severity is that Go 117 is probably going to require us to have this solved. So we have about 6 months.
Okay.
5 months.
5 months.
And
Jordan,
We will.
really 4
Sorry, go
because we like to get onto 117 release candidate. So yeah.
you had followed up with the Go team a bit, I think, as well as Tim, on the performance of list calls in our generators. Do we get any movement on that?
No. No.
So that's another thing is even when we get some of these working, they perform like there's like an order of magnitude worse performance.
Yeah, it's not just a simple like we used to make this statement and now we need to like make sure we reference the full package, and it's like a one-to-one, like just change this line to that line. The tools that we use to look up package information, load type information, if you use those exact tools the same way, they are way more expensive. And so there's actually alternative tools that will like load a whole module tree at once, and you can load it once and then use that information for lots of packages. But it requires basically rewriting sort of the loop of some of our tools like the code generators or the makefile generator to, instead of being like file driven or directory by directory driven, to say like, here's the stuff I want to generate, let me slurp in all these packages once and then use that information. Like it's not a bad change, but it's basically like restructuring those tools, which is not a targeted like change these 3 lines and it works now.
Mhm.
So that's what Tim had run into when he was trying to fix the makefile generation. That's what I ran into when I was trying to fix the code generation. I was anticipating it would be like a, yeah, change these 3 lines and then we'll work. And it's not, and it hasn't gotten high priority enough for anyone to sit down and actually go through rewriting those tools. I think Tim is probably the best resource for the makefile stuff, either to do it or to pair with to give guidance, because he originated that. I think Stefan probably is the best one for the code generator, because he originated a lot of that and understands like how those are wired together. So if you are wanting to start diving in to the code generator, I would reach out to Stefan, so you don't spin your wheels trying to understand stuff that he could explain in 10 minutes.
Got that, Nabaran?
I got it. Yeah. I think we are referring to that migration to X tools packages issue that we have been running for some time. So yeah, thanks Jordan for that insight. Like I'll reach out to Stefan for an overview. That would be like, I think, helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had for today, and we are almost out of time. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.